AI, right? It's like it's everywhere these days. ChatGPT writing poems, composing emails, even trying to code for us. Wild, isn't it? But it makes you wonder, how much do we really get how these large language models, LLMs, actually work? And what are they really capable of? Which is what's got me so intrigued by the research we're diving into today. You wanted to explore the possible risks of LLMs. And this paper, Multiverse, Exposing Large Language Model Alignment Problems in Diverse Worlds. Well, it really digs into that.
It really does. This paper is really pushing the boundaries of what we understand about these LLMs.
So they start with this idea, right? We're getting better at training LLMs to be safe, harmless in our normal everyday world. But then what happens when you take them and drop them into a totally different context?
That's the core question. The researchers, they wanted to see, what if you put an LLM into a situation totally alien to anything it's been trained on, what they call diverse worlds?
Okay, so hold on, because this is where it gets really wild. They built these worlds using a special programming language, like building a whole simulation, and they called it WDL. And get this, one of the worlds, Python code, the whole thing, but set in the Baroque period.
Talk about creative. And it highlights something so important. To really understand where LLMs have weaknesses, we got to test them in unexpected, even bizarre scenarios.
Because we want to know, can they handle something they've never seen, not just the same old data?
Exactly. And what they found, LLMs are more vulnerable than we might think, especially in these corner cases, unusual situations, stuff the models haven't specifically been trained to handle.
And that's where alignment comes in, yeah.
Absolutely. Alignment with LLMs, it's all about ensuring they act in ways that line up with human values, making sure they don't go off the rails, spitting out dangerous or just totally inappropriate stuff.
So they built these whole AI simulations, these diverse worlds, right? To see how LLMs would react in them. What'd they find? Did the AI totally break down?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. They found that the more layers they added to these worlds, so think adding complexity, the more likely the LLMs were to start producing, harmful content.
So you're saying make the AI's world complicated enough and it's more likely to start acting up. Sounds kind of like a sci-fi movie, a little bit.
It does have a certain dramatic flair to it, doesn't it? But seriously, one thing that really stood out how badly the LLMs did with something as basic as pronouns once things got complicated.
Wait, pronouns? Like he, she, they. Why is that such a big deal?
It's subtle, but it gets at something fundamental about how these LLMs understand language and context. Pronouns, right.
Yeah.
They're all about understanding relationships, roles within a certain situation. If LLMs struggle with something that basic in these odd situations, makes you wonder, how well would they handle way more complex ethical situations out in the real world?
Good point. We can joke about the Python Baroque world, but this pronoun thing, that hinted at a deeper issue.
Exactly. And this goes right back to the risks we're talking about of relying on LLMs for real-world stuff. I mean, we're talking integrating them into everything online search, even self-driving cars, systems that got to make tough calls with potentially huge consequences.
And then there's jailbreaking. I keep hearing about that. People intentionally trying to trick LLMs into, making them produce harmful stuff.
Absolutely. The researchers, they looked at that pretty in-depth. Current defense mechanisms against these jailbreaking attempts. And, let's just say there's room for improvement. We need stronger safeguards, that's clear, especially with LLMs becoming more powerful, more embedded in our lives all the time.
This is really making me think. It's like we need to be doing a lot more to make sure these LLMs are, smart, but also safe.
Yeah, I agree. This research, it really highlights how important responsible AI development is. It's not enough to just make these models bigger, faster. We got to prioritize really understanding what they can't do, what the risks might be, and having clear guidelines for, how we design and use them.
So less about stopping AI from getting too smart and more about making sure smart includes being safe, reliable, all that.
Exactly. We got to ask the tough questions. How do we even define good when we talk about AI? Especially in a world where, what's considered good might be different across different cultures, different societies. These are conversations we got to be having now, not after something happens.
That's true. Can't just tell an AI be good and assume it'll just figure it out, right?
Right. This research, it's a wake-up call, I think, reminds us we're still in the really early stages of getting what these large language models can do. The potential's huge, but we got to be careful, and stay curious.
Okay, last one, and maybe this is out there, but if we can trick these LLMs in these made-up weird worlds, what's that mean for just online information in general? Are we headed towards a future where You can't even trust what you see online anymore because it could be some rogue AI messing with us?
That's a question worth asking, for sure. We're already dealing with misinformation, deepfakes, all that. As LLMs get more advanced, being able to tell what's real, what's AI generated, that's only going to get tougher.
Yeah,
It's kind of wild to think about.
it really is. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into, well, LLMs and all the challenges of AI alignment. If you want to learn more, we've got the link to the full multiverse paper in the show notes. And as always, thanks for listening.